Hi, in this video I will build a full stack application using Java Spring and ReactJS. Java Spring will build a GRESS API and support features like CRUD. And after that, ReactJS build an application to call the API. This is the features of the app. So at the beginning, the app show a course list. So for example, foundations of programming in C# and object-oriented programming. This list is stored in the database in the server, and this is called by the REST API call. After that, I can show the detail of the respective course. User can also create a new course in here, providing the code, the names of the course, and the description of the course. Created. After create, new course will be added to the database in the server, and when we retrieve the course again, new course will be listed in here. A lot of key concepts of Java Spring and ReactJS will be introduced. Hi, in this session we implement the server side. Although the application is simple, but we follow all the layers. REST controller layers, which called services layer, which called repositories layer. This one will retrieve data and will also persist data. So let's start. We start with creating a new Spring Starter project. Alright, so this is what we have. We will have the group, and after that, this one is full stack courses server, and version we keep it the same, and package is this ss.courses. We'll have Maven project 11 Java version, and after that the other is just leave there. So in here I select 276 or 275, and after that we have the Spring Boot DAV2 JPA, right? And after that we also have need X2, so X2 is to store the JPA project, and of course we need Spring Web, so this one is for MVC. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. We don't need a theme lift because we don't need the UI portion. Alright, so that's all that we need, and then I just finish. So let's start. After waiting for some time to import the content in order, then we'll have the project, and now we can start. We'll have the whole project in here. So now we have data inside database, right? So in order to get the data, what we need, the first one is the entity. So let's create entity. So in here I have another package, model package, where I store all the entity, and after that I new a new class. So this one is the course. This is my entity. Inside the course class I have ID, code, name, and description. Right, so all of this one I will generate all the source, generate all the getter and setter together with the toString method as well. Alright, and besides that I need a empty constructor. So publish course, this is empty constructor, and another constructor would have the code, the name, and the description. So now in order to make this course an entity JPA, now we have three things. So the first one is declare, this one is entity. So this one is Java persistent entity. The second one is I create, this one is ID, right? And also this one is generated value. And the strategy is identity. Alright, so we have second one, and this is the third one. So very simple JPA model. We're done with the model. Now this one is the repository to retrieve the data from the database using the JPA. Right, so let's create another one, is a repository. So I create a new package in order to store all the repository. Then in order to create a repository, I create an interface name course repository. And this one is in order to extend the JPA repository, right? I need to declare the model type. So this is the course together with the ID type. So this is the integer, right? So integer is in here. So we know that Spring will automatically create and implement all the method of JPA repository in order to apply for the course repository. Now our next one is the service layer will make use of this repository. So let's go to the service layer. I create another package called service. So this is the way that Spring do. Right? We start with interface, right? And we declare all the method that we want to implement inside the service. So in here, I want to find all the course, and this is, so I do the import in here, right? So the course in here. So this is the first thing. The second one is create, right? So I want to create course as well. So now in order to create course, I will return the final course. So this one will be create course and import a course object. So I import a course object, and after creating course into the database, we have a return course object, which may have some different from the original course, right? Maybe there's some ID value, etc. The next one is I want to edit the course. So same thing. So I want to edit the course, and the input is another course. And finally, I need to do the delete the course. So void delete course. The input is the ID. So this one is ID. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and CRUD. Here I have another method that if I want to find a course, find course by a given ID, and the return is an optional course because this one may exist or not exist, right? So this is all that I have. We do the implementation for this service. So you know that, right? This service layer is to help us for the transitional operation. So in here, in Spring, right, a good practice is that put all the method into transitional. And this one should be a read transitional. If it's related to the database, we can put all of them to transitional read only. And for the operations modify the database, then we put it as read and write implemented. So new class, and then this one is course service implementation. And this one, of course, will implement the course service. And I need to implement all of the method. All right. So now let's go. We will start with something very simple with a find on course. And after that, we do the test. And after the test, then we complete everything later. So I start with find on course first. So in order to find the course, I need to retrieve this course repository. So in order to do that, now I need a course repository in here, right? So I declare this one as a course repository. Then I name it as course repository. And after that, I need to declare as a resource, right? So that it will auto scan later. I declare this one as a resource, and now I can make use of this course repository already. Now if I want to find all the course, I just use the course repository dot find all. We can see, right, this one is the course repository. It has all the implementation of all the method in JPA repository, and because of that, now I can use the find all. And of course, the find on in here is return a list of course. One of the purpose of this service layer is to support transaction, and because of that, besides declare this one as a service, I also declare this one as transactional. In here we have two kind of transitional here. So what we use is this Spring transitional, right? And after that, this one we declare as read only equal to true. It means that by default all the method inside here, inside this core service implement, will support transaction but only read, right? So find course in here. Create and edit is different story, and delete is different story. So in here we need to override the transactional in here. is a read-only equal to false because we want to modify the database. So create, this one is false, right? Create is false, edit transitional read-only false, and delete read-only false. And the rest, find on course and find course, will only read only. Now we complete the service layer. So the next one is, the last one is we create a REST controller layer in order to use the service. So let's create a REST controller layer. So in here I create another package what is called controller, and in here I create another class what is called, of course, course controller. In here I declare it is a REST controller together with the request mapping. So request mapping, we can start, this one is a APA. Alright, so we're done. Now let's say that we want to list all the courses, right? So I get all courses. How can I implement this one? So let me import everything first. So this is the list and the course. In order to list all the courses, this controller will use another layer which is service, and then get all the courses. So it's return a service, right? Service here is a course service, and because of that I need a object of course service in here. So private course service, and this one I need to do the auto while. Alright, and after that, if I have the course service in here, then I can use this course service to find on course. In here I also can put the request mapping as well, and I want this one is a get mapping only. So this one is the get mapping, and I want the other path after the /APIs in here is a courses. So totally API and courses. So we're done with the course controller. We can start running our application to test. Okay, so I open the browser, and after that localhost API courses is empty, so it's correct. However, there's no data inside, so we need to add our data. So in our application, because at the beginning we declare is using Hack2 database, right? So the data is storing in the Hack2 database. So in order to do the testing easier, then after that I will create a database configuration in here. We see that the database using still Hack2. All the DDL, right? It means that the tables will be automatically created every time the application restart. And after that, this is the database URL, my course with the username and admin. Now, in order to test easier, we create some of the data. So we create another command line bin in order to run whenever the server runs. So let's go. So in here, I declare a bin together with the command line runner. And after that, this one will load the data. All right. So any names should be okay. And after that, I need a repository in order to create the data. So this is course repository. So in here, this one I need a method. So I need to return a command line runner. So which is actually the method, and the method has the argument with the method. Right? So this is the return method body is a lambda expression, right? So we can run whatever we want inside from here to here. So in here, I want to add some courses testing. So for example, I have course number 1 equals to new course. And I want to set this code as FOPCS. I set the names and the description. The name is this fundamentals of programming in C#. The description is FOPCS description. After that, I use the course repository to save this entity, the course number 1. I do the same thing for the course number 2. So in here, I add another course with the code OPCS. The name is object-oriented programming, and the description is OPCS description. With that, I can restart the application. So I save, and this one will automatically run. So you see that whatever is we run, right, it's drop on the table, create a new table, and start to execute this code, which is save the course 1 and course 2. In order to make the testing easier, we can use the H2 console. So in here, I use this localhost and then /H2 console. We see the login here. All the login information actually is inside here. And after that, in here, I can select all the course and we run. 2 courses has been successfully added to this table. And because of that, now we can run again. So now I run the list course again in here. And you see, now we have 2 courses, 1 and 2. And congratulations, we have successfully implemented the list course API. So we continue to implement other features. Alright, so in here I need to implement find course and create course, edit course, and delete course. So in here, how? In order to find a course, right, again, I can use the course repository. And after that, find by ID. See here, input is the ID and output is the optional course. Optional course is the course maybe is empty because the ID is not found. Right, so we're done. How about create course in here? Again, in order to create, we use the course repository, and then after that we save. Right, we save this course, and then we're done. And of course, after the course saved, this will return the new object. So maybe at the beginning we input something without the ID, and after that, after using the course repository to save, then the new course, the return object, will have the ID. For example, added the same thing. If you give me the new course information, then I use this course repository to save this input course. And of course, we need to return updated courses from the database. How about delete? Same thing. Use the course repository to delete, and this one is delete by ID, right? And then the input is the ID. So I'm done. So this is for find, create, and then edit, and then delete. And you see that in this situation, because it's simple, so this layer does not do a lot. However, still this support the transaction features in this application. So now we're done with the service layer. Now we complete the REST controller layer. I have the get all course already. I implement the get course by ID. So we'll have public and then get course by ID. And of course, the input is the ID. We start with void first, right? How can we get the ID in here? So one way is we get the ID from the URL part. So in here, I get the mapping. And then if I say that if there's the course but with the ID, this ID will be mapped. And because of that, this one is a path parameter. It's a path variable. And this one actually is ID. The type is integer ID, and after that I can get the course by ID. I will try to ask the service to get the course for me. So service course find course by ID, and the input is the ID. It returned me an optional course, which is the notable course object, and this one I call it optional courses. I want to respond this one to the client. So if optional course is present, it means that if the course exists, and after that we have this object course, then I get the object course here equal to up course, and then get. So now I have the object course already. I want to return this object course and respond to the client in the form of the JSON, right? So how do I do that? So one way is to create a response entity. So return new response entity. And you see that this one is wrapping as a course. I want to return with the content is the return course in here, this course object, together with the HTTP status, which is okay. You see that because we return this response entity here, so in here I will change this one to the return is the response entity object. So this one is when the course is present. So what else It means that if the service cannot find this course with a given ID, then how? Then of course we say that it's just not found. So I return a new response entity. And this one I say that, okay, this one just not found. Alright, so here we have completed get course by ID. Now we want to support the CreateCourse. So public, we start with void again, and after that I say that I create a course. This object, the course object, will be from the request body. So I have course in here, and this one is the input course, and this is from the request body. Alright, and because of that, this one I will only support the post, and the path is still the course. Right, so if I had received the post method, this is the path, and I need to look into that the body of this request is in course in here. I want to create a course, right? It means that now I need to call the course service again. I create a course, so this is the in course one, right? So we're done. And of course this one has the return. So this is the return course. You see that this return course may different from the in course. So I want to return the result to the client as well. The same in here, I return this object to the client. So I return a new response entity with the course, and this one is the return together with the HTTP status. And of course, because now the request is to create a course, so the HTTP status is to created, so created successfully. And because of that, now I have returned this one, so I need to declare the return method is this response entity courses. So there's something more, right? When the course service try to create a course, and if for example some of the key is duplicate or exist already, or some problem happening, then we need to handle it. And because of that, one simple way is to drop everything inside a try, and then after that, this one is just an exception catching. And after that, now I return another response entity, and this one say that an expectation fail. Maybe because you add some in course with some wrong data, or the ID is existed and duplicated, and etc. We done with the CreateCourse. So now we go with edit course. So in here I publish again void edit course, same thing. There's an input with the in course in here. Everything's the same, only the method is different. So in here, put mapping. So this is the put method. We know that the put method is to use in order to update, right? So in here, however, we need another one. So which course ID that you want to update, and what is the new information inside the given request. So we have two parameters. The first one is the ID, right? And then the ID is from the path variable, and this one is the ID, and this one is integer ID, and another one is from request body, and this is the new course, new information course. Our first step is from the ID, I need to retrieve the course object. Is it exist or not? I have the optional of the course in here. This one I will get option from the course service again. Find course, right, and input D, exactly like this one. So now we check if this one is present or not, and we deal with it. I try to add it, right? So this one, if it's present, then I add it. Otherwise, you do something wrong. So I else first, right? And this one I will return to the request, say that, hey, actually you send me something that not found, and because of that I return a new response entity, and this one is because of that now I will return a response entity. This one is actually another call. Okay, so now if present, then how? Of course, if present, then I need to update the object. How? All right, we need to get the object course outside. So this one is course object equal to the optional, and then after that I get the object out. This one not only exists, but because this one is getting from the database, from the course service, find course is get from the database, and because of that, it is JPA managed object. And for JPA managed object, we can update it and save it later. I update all the new information. So course, I set the new code, and the new code is actually from the in course information. So this one, I get the code, set to the new name, and of course I also set to the new description. Okay, so we're done. We call our service to update everything. So I call course service to update, to edit the course here. Yes, and this is the given input. And of course, after course service edit the course, you need to give me the updated course object in order for me to return to the client. I return new response entity of the course with the object. So this is updated courses object together with say that I am okay to edit the course already, and this is the updated course information. And now our last one, we want to delete the course. So I implement publish, and then I delete the course. I start with void again, delete course. And this one, how to delete the course. So in order to delete the course, we need the course ID. We only receive the delete mapping if the method, the HTTP method is delete, and after that the link is start with the course together with the ID. So it means that the client wants to delete this course ID. It's something same here, but this one is the put is to update, delete is to remove. So in here, because of that, I have the path variable. This one is ID from here. So this path ID, this one is the integer, put it to this ID. So for this delete operation, so what we try is that we try to delete the course with this ID, and if there's something wrong, then we return that information to the client as well. Course service to delete the course for me, right? So the course ID, so I try to do that. So if it's okay, then I return a response with saying that actually is no more content for this course. Response entity, and after that, this one is just the status, and this one say that now the one with the ID has no more content, and because of that, now I will return this method to not the void anymore, but this response entity HTTP status. Okay, we're done. However, if there's something wrong with the deletion, so I try this deletion, and after that I catch it. So this one will return status, right? And the status is actually expectation fails. Okay, so we've done what CRUD, everything started ready. Just now for the list, we can do the testing in here. However, for edit and etc., we need to test in another tool. We will use Postman. So this is the Postman. I create a collection called my courses. Now I add a request. This is the get, and this is URL. So I send. Right. So very good. We'll have this return. Very good. So now this is the new request. I name it as the list courses. So now we create another one, and this one is create courses, right? We create a new course, and how to do that? Again, the link is the same, copy and paste here, but this is the post method. So in here, I need to send to the server this create. In here, the URL is again API/courses. Okay, and now I need to have the request bodies, the in course in here. So in here, this one is the JSON, right? So I can create a JSON into the body, and because of that, select body here, and this is the raw one, and this is the JSON. Okay, so with that, I create a JSON in here. So this is the one, the course. We need the code, the name, and the description. We don't need the ID because this one is generated. Alright, so in here, the code I put here is ASP.NET. The name is ASP.NET MVC programming, and the description is understand and develop web app using ASP.NET MVC. So I send, you see that it's okay. The return is an object, right? So you look at here. The return is actually, if it's okay, it's a return object, right? So this is return object from the core service, which called the repository. And because of that, you look at here. At the beginning, when we call, there's no ID, but after the return, there's ID in here, and the ID is number 3. So now we continue to test the request. So in here, I test the edit. So I added course, right? So the same thing, add this, same with the URLs with here. However, now it's become put, and not only that, right? In order to edit, we need the ID as well. So we put the ID. So for example, I want to edit the number 2, and of course I put the body again. This body is a raw and JSON. So I change this one to another thing. So in here, I call the code is FOPC as name is foundations of programming with C#, and the description is write programs using C# with its Visual Studio. And you look at it, right? At the beginning, this is the one. This is FOPC as the same, but the description is very roughly taken here, just a placeholder. Now we change the description. And the name is fundamental of programming in C#. So this one is fundamental of programming with C#, right? So into what? So let's see that if it can update or not. So we send, and then we see they return the same thing with the ID here to FOPCS, and the return is the updated value. We can go to our console here and then test again, and you see number 2 now is write program using C# with Visual Studio and etc. So it's actually updated. Let's test another one with the deleted. So for the delete, same thing, delete, right? And then just the edit from here. So let's say that after I update, I realize there was something wrong. So I want to delete this course of the ID number 2. And because of that, now I just delete with this link, course last 2. And now I send the request. And you see, there's no thing returned in the body, but and this return status is 204, no content. The number 2 already be deleted. So congratulations, we have completed writing the server part for our application with support CRUD. We will use this API in our ReactJS client later. We continue our tutorial by making use of the API that we just developed. We'll make use of the product that we have built a mini app using the ReactJS step by step. So you can either follow the tutorial or you can copy the file from the link. So this is the one, extract it. So we'll have the code in here, and after that we use Visual Studio to continue with this code. Open Visual Studio and open this folder. So in this folder, we only have source and public, and all dependencies we don't have. And because of that, we will use the npm to retrieve all the dependencies. I open a new terminal, and after that I say npm update. It will take us a few minutes in order to build or retrieve all the packages dependency. After being done, all the nodes module, the dependencies are updated in here. Because of that, we can start our server. Let's start. The app start, and this is what we have here. We have the list of the courses, and after that, click detail, then the details will be displayed. Exactly what we have ended in the previous tutorial. Now, let's do the development. Currently, in our list course, the course list is received from the outside, whether it's the app here with hardcode the core list. So in here, instead of receiving the core list from outside, this list course should get the core list from the API that we just developed. And let's do that. And because my core list is from the API, so it's changed. And because it changed, it cannot be the prof anymore. So I delete it. And instead, I'll create another state. So this is my course list. The function is update my course list. And again, I use the state. And at the beginning, this one is an empty array, right? And because after I save, you can see that this one is empty array. And because that there's nothing more. Right, so what we need to do is to call the API and retrieve the data from the API to initialize this my list course. So how to do that? In ReactJS, we have another hook. So this one is to let us perform side effects in the function component, including data fetching, setting up description, and etc. So it's include data fetching. So in here, we will call useEffect. And this one is a function. What we want to do to fetch the data one time. It says that if we want to run the effect and clean it only once time, we can pass an empty array as a second argument. So we pass empty array as a second argument here, saying that this one only run one time. So let's say that I want run time, and I say okay, console.log retrieve the course. Going back here, view the source. And after that, start running again. See here at the beginning, it's called retrieve courses. You see, it's run twice because this one is in the debugger. However, in the run, it's will run once time only. So we're done. We have this one. Now we need to retrieve the course from the API. How do we do that? Let's introduce Axios. So in here we say that Axios is a promise-based HTTP client for Node.js and the browser, and it helps us to make the request and taking care of the request. So in order to do that, I use the npm to install. So let's run another terminal, and after that npm I want to install this Axios. And now, in order to make sure that you can follow and run, I use the current version to 1.21. So I run it. Axios has already been installed in the Node modules in here. I can use it to call the outside. So in here I say Axios and then call. So in order to call, I add a get method. Input, you can see here is a URL. And you can see that previously, in order to retrieve data, we use this get array localhost and then A080 API courses. We will copy this URL in order to put in here. Axios will take care of retrieving the data, and after that, after having the response, we put here to get something. So this is again, this is lambda expression, a method. And another one is if there's some problem, then we need to catch the exception. So in here, whenever there's an exception, I just console and log. How about this one? After having the response from the API, which look like this, Axios has taken care of transforming the JSON into the JavaScript object for us. And because of that, response here, transform the response data from this JSON to an array of objects. So in here, we'll have two objects, right? And because of that, we can assign this array of objects into my list course, which is also an array of course. And because of that, now I will call update my list course, which is to assign whatever inside to this my list course, myCourseList. So update myCourseList with the new data. So new data is response.data. I also put this console.log response.data in order to test. Let's save and test our application. So after I refresh, you can see that this call retrieve the course, and this is the response. This is the response data. You see, response data will have two objects, 1 and 2, with all the ID, etc. And after that, we assign this array of two objects into my list course. And after that, because my list course already updated, just updated, so this component will re-render. Whole chunk is re-render. And again, this is what you see, right? We'll have everything that we need. And when we click detail, the detail will be displayed. So congratulations, we have already retrieved the data from the API so that we can put it into my list in here. So after that, the application here doesn't need to send the data to the list course anymore, and because of that, I delete it. And also, I delete all this code core list in here. So I save it, then the function is still the same. I can change it to make sure that it's correct. See, still correct. So we're done. Our next step is to create another module called CreateCourse. And again, we will make use of the API that we created. Now I new file, and then this one is another component called CreateCourse.js. In the Visual Studio Code, we can select JavaScript, and not the language in here is not JavaScript, but this is React JavaScript. This one will support everything that the React JavaScript has, like JSS, etc. Alright, in order to create a course, let's create a simple one first. So in here, I export default function and then I create course. So this one at the beginning, it just return me create new course. So this one is just a div, and after that we have X4. This one is create a new course, just HTML. And after that there's a form, and at the beginning we have label. So we have label here. And after that we have the input. So the first input is the code. The second input is for the name. So this is the name here. And of course we'll have the input for description as well. And finally we'll have the button create. So let's launch this create course by replacing the, instead of this course in here, now we change it to the create course. We deal with the list course later. So this one I put create course in here. Make sure that this create course is imported from here. And after save, you see that this one is the create course. We'll have the input for code, name, and the description. In order to create a course, so we know that from our Postman, we need to call this API with the post method together with the course code name and description is in the JSON value. So in order to do that, after the button click, then we need to send all this data to the API. Right? So let's handle the button click first. So in here, right, just the same as previously. In here we say on click equal to handle the create click. And because of that, we need to have another function. So this one function handle create click, input is the event. And in here, I don't do anything, but just say console log, and then I will submit data to server to create new course. And before that, I need to prevent the default, right? So usually it will submit right away, right? So we prevent the default function. So we're done. Let's go. So if I click here, it submit data to the server. Alright, so nothing is done in here. So in order to submit the data, I need the data here. Alright, so I need the data from the input name, from the input code, from the input name, and the description. So how we do that? Usually using the JavaScript, we will use getElementById, and after having the ID, we will have the values of this input. Alternatively, in ReactJS, we can use this hook useReference. It returns a mutable reference whose current properties is initialized to pass. So you can see that, right? In here, we'll have the input. We put the reference into it, this input. And after that, we assign it to use the reference in here. After that, or we can retrieve value, or we can call whatever for this input element using input element.current. Alright, let's do the implementation. So in here, at the beginning, I declare a constant code element in here, and I use the reference hook. And this one import for me. The beginning, the initial value is null. So after that, I will use this one to refer to this input name code. So I use this one to refer to this input. So reference equal to my code element. Alright, so after I have this code element already, I can use this code element to get the current DOM element. So this one is the code element.current. So this is a DOM element, and from that I can get the value. Right, so let's do the test. Console log code.current.value. Alright, so I run this one again, and now let's put the SQL inside the code create. So we'll have the SQL in here. So yes, this code element can retrieve the values of this input in here by this method. And because of that, let's do for all of the other elements. So I have the name element, and after that I have the description, same thing in here. And after that, everything I will use the reference. So reference, the name element together with this one is the reference. This is description element. All the element have already, and because of that, this one I should have all. Alright, so everything there already. Let's do the test. So we do the test here. Names here is database programming, and description is programming with SQL. Click, you see that all of this one, 1, 2, 3 in here. So we are ready to send this data to the API. So again, in order to send to the API, we use the post with this URL together with a JSON body. Again, Axios can help us to do so. So again, this one is a post value. So we do the post in here. This one, we need the URL and the data. This is the URL, right? API.course, and the data is in terms of JSON object, including the code, the name, and the description. And in order to do that, I create a data in here, constant data equal to, and prepare the object in here. So we have the code, and then after that I have the name and description. The value of the code is of course code element current values it will prepare just now. Name is name element current value, and description is the same. So I have the data. I will send this data to the server to a post. So Axios again after the post, then when it retrieves the response, we put it in the lambda expression as well. So what we want to do with this response, and of course if there's some problem, what we want to do with the exception. In here again, we only log, don't do anything. And for the response, right, so again we look at it after sending, right, the response is the new object in here, right. In here, to simplify the scenario, I just output the response. So again, console log, and then I say okay, success with the response data only. I'm ready to do the test. So let's run it again. And after that, code is SQL, name is database programming, and description is programming with SQL and MySQL. I run, and you see this is the response. Same thing, but we have the ID. This is the new one. So it means that this new course has been already successfully created into the database. We can check it using this one, the API again. Fresh, we'll have the ID score with 3. So congratulations, we have successfully created a new course for this ReactJS. Alright, so now we have to list course and create course, and we only view the create course and we hide the list 4. Now we need to design something so that sometimes we need to display list the course, and sometimes we need to display create course based on the user want. Before we doing that, let's do some cleanup. So in here, this one we can clean up everything. Okay, so this one we can clean enough already, and this one. So let's test our data again. Make sure that still consider. Alright, so everything there. This ID is number 4. Alright, I will restart my server and then clean up the data again so that we start from the beginning. Okay, all the data has been cleaned up, and after that, see this one is 2 ID again. So in here we have 2 components, list course and create course. If I open 2 components on the same time, then we see something like this. Alright, so 1 component, 2 components. I want to implement something that sometimes is show this create course component and sometimes it show the new course component. How can I do that? We'll have another module called React Router. So this one is manage multiple page and provide multiple URL. It also enables navigation, allow to change the browser URL and etc. So let's use the React Router to implement the feature. Before we can do anything, then we need to import the dependency. So in here I say npm in order to use the React Router, I install it. Install React Router DOM, and my current version is 6.4.5. Alright, so the router is ready for us to use. So in here in this application, I can say that okay, this return, instead of putting everything, all the component, now we enable the browser router. Put everything inside the browser router. Now we can start from here. So it will display from here and from here, right? So between these 2, I will select one of them. In order to do that, I will change this one to a routes. I enable the routing between these 2 components, and for each of the component, now it's only display under some condition. Route for the path, only for the path that like list course. Then the element, this syntax say that I want to include this component list course only when the path is list course. Right, we do the same thing for this one. So I do the route. So same thing. This one say that I only display the route for this component creates course only when the path is creates course. Right, and make sure that all of this route, everything is imported in here. So this one only routing browsers. So I can do automatically import by using the Visual Studio Code functionality. Okay, so we've done. So now you can see, right, this path is depends on the path of the URL. And because this URL now is the root URL, none of the component is loaded. So if I start list course, then here we go. This one is what? The list course is loaded and it's included this one. Now, if we put create course, now the create course is loaded and this is the way of the routing. We can create different routes as well. So for example, I can create different path for only one component, right? So maybe if the path is actually the root one, then I can still load this list course component. So let's run it again. You see, now it's the root and then this list course component is loaded. So congratulations, we end with the routing to load different component in different URL path. So here I also want to show you another scenario that, for example, we want to show a navigation bar in here so that it can load different component. Then how? In ReactJS browser router, there is another feature that can create a link. So let's do that. In here, under this one, I can create a navigation here. And after that, I can use this navigation together with a link in order to create the navigation bar. And so to make it shorter, let's create another function outside. So in here, I create a function called getNavigationHTML. This one is I can return, the whole return is the navigation bar, right? And then from here, I can create different links. So li, this one I use the link. So you see, this one, the link is in React Router DOM. Okay, so link included in here. This one is a link to a list course. This one is whatever we want to put it. Right. So this is one link. Now I have another link. So link 2, this one is CreateCourse. And after that I have the create in here. Finally, I put everything inside this browser router. And of course, this one is the JSS. So I put this one into the curly bracket. Okay, you see here 1 and 2 link. This is 1 and 2 link. So if I click to the link here, then this one changed to CreateCourse in here. Clicked here, then this one is changed to the list course here. So we've done with creating another navigation. By using the router, we can load whatever component that we want conditionally based on the path that we have in here, right? And using the link, of course, we can easily create a navigation bar. Next, if we want to beautify this page, and a lot of time we use Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a powerful and feature-packed front-end toolkit, right? So that most of the time we want to make our page more beautiful. In here, I will show you how to include Bootstrap in the ReactJS. We need to install the package as well. So in here, I say npm again install, and this is Bootstrap. Again, you may not need to write the version to get the latest one, or you can write the version optionally. So my one currently is 5.2.2. Now we have Bootstrap already. Right, after that, in order to use it, then we need to import it. And where to do that? So inside this index.js. So this in here, that actually this one is the way that we can import CSS. So instead of index.js, now I import Bootstrap. So import, you see the Bootstrap, and then you see that, right? If you go to the node module, this is the Bootstrap, right? And we'll have distribute in here, CSS in here, and after that, the main one is course bootstrap.min.css. Alright, so let's import again distribute and then CSS, then bootstrap.min.s. Right, so we'll have Bootstrap ready for us. So let's do some sample styling in here. We know that our application has Bootstrap already, and you see the display is a bit changed in some of the font. So let's say that I want to style this navigation bar. Right, so in order to style navigation bar, this is currently we've styled it in Bootstrap. Again, I copy and paste to save your time. You can see that I put the class names in here, class name in navigation, and after that div and UI, UL in here, and li in here. Alright, so all the thing, putting all the necessary class name and etc. So when I save it, now this one become the bar in here. Alright, so it means that I can style my documents, my page using the Bootstrap already. If we call create and etc. it's all in here. Alright. So congratulations, in this video we have already made use of the API that we developed and create a ReactJS application calling the API in order to list all the course in here or create a new course. ReactJS is very powerful and really enjoyable to work with. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much.